What up, Chick players? It's the homie C-Rod, and today we are gonna be talking about the most evil villain in Dragon Ball Z, one of the most powerful, Janemba, the evil supreme beast. What is Janemba? Well, he comes out in the Fusion Reborn movie, and I recommend you guys to go watch the movie because you're gonna be able to get yourself an exclusive Gogeta card for going to watch it in theaters. And I'm gonna go watch it, so you go watch it. I want to say hit that subscribe button for all Dragon Ball Super content. So let's get straight into Janemba. So Janemba, let me make space for this beast. Boom, we got Janemba. Don't underestimate Janemba by his look. Janemba is looking like a little fluffy yellow ball of funness, but he is supreme evil. What does he do? Well, when he attacks, you get this from the booster box. It has a burst skill. So burst means in order to activate the auto, you need to fulfill the burst effect, and burst requires you to place 2 cards from the top of your deck in the drop area, and then the auto takes off where you draw 1 card. Very useful effect, but you awaken yourself at 4 lives or less, right? You untap 2 of your energies like usual, and then now you become the evil supreme evil horned demon beast Janemba with a blade, an awesome crazy looking blade that you just spawned. So what is his skill? Why is this guy broken just like in the movie? Well, sparking 5, you need to have 5 cards in the drop area in order to activate the auto. What is his auto? Well, when this card attacks, you draw 1 card like usual, and this card gains a 5k boost power and critical for the attack or for the turn. Crazy, right? So he's a 20,000 critical attack, thus your opponent's not going to be able to get cards from their life to their hand, and that makes him a very strong card. Not only that, he has an activate main ability that you get to choose 1 card in your hand, place it in the drop area, and then that sword that he spawned stabs Cold Bloodlust in the neck, slices pretty much Crusher Ball in half, because if your opponent decides to use counterplay cards, they have to place 3 cards from their hand in the drop area, and that pretty much kills the hand. Thus, your opponent's most likely not going to activate counterplay cards. Thus, you can play your battle cards at much ease. So that is Supreme Evil Janemba. He is Supreme Evil. And then that's not it. We're getting 2 Janemba leader cards. There's another exclusive Janemba card, which is this one right here. And what does this guy do? Well, he has a downside that he has a permanent skill that you cannot include cards with the energy cost of 5 or more in your deck. That kind of sucks. You cannot run a 5 cost in your deck, and that kind of hinders the deck a little bit, but not that much, because Janemba is I'll tell you what he does. Just listen. So when this card attacks, you draw 1 card, and you place 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck in the drop area. What does this mean? That means this leader is one of the most effective deck destruction leaders there is in the game as of now, because every time you attack, your opponent's going to be forced to pretty much destroy the top of their deck. And then you awaken, when you have 4 lives or less, you untap 2 of your energies. Basic awakening ability, right? But then you have the Relentless Speed Janemba. Awakened, evil horns, evil villain. What does he do? Well, when this card attacks, draw 1 card, and the same ability, your opponent is forced to destroy their deck, placing the top 2 cards from their deck in the drop area. And then he also has another auto that when this card is attacked, just like in the show where this guy's like teleporting in and out, you may place 1 blue card in your hand in the drop area. If you do so, you negate the attack and negate the skill for the duration of the turn. So you could dodge 1 attack automatically, because that's what his auto is, and that's Janemba, the deck destruction leader. So either or, whichever you want. Do you want to be the 5k critical, or do you want to be the deck destruction drawing monster? That's the 2 Janemba cards we have, and they are epic. So besides that, let's get into the actual battle cards that we're going to be getting. So we have what it started like in the show. We got Janemba, right? Janemba wasn't Janemba. He was a rocking out, just a regular like demon, just rocking out, you know, to some rock like just rocking out, and then he accidentally bumped into something. He got gassed up and turned into some absurd demon that was like just literally destroying the whole other world. So what does this guy do? So this guy right here, he starts off the Janemba play. So he has 2 skills, which is pretty darn good, that when you play this card, he's a 1-drop, so he's very good to start off your Janemba plays. When you play this card, you get to choose one of the effects. Look up to 7 cards from the top of your deck, choose 1 Janemba card and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. Basic 1-turn play searcher card. But then there's another effect that when you play this card, look up to 1 card from the bottom of your deck and you get to choose 1 Janemba card among them and add it to your hand and shuffle your deck. So you're like, how would I ever have a Janemba card in the bottom of my deck? What are the odds of that? Well, Janemba plays like that. Every other Janemba card goes under the deck, thus you can play this card and just get it back to your hand. That is how this deck works. That's how the Janemba cards are gonna work. So that is the rocking out Janemba. So let's get to the actual Janemba cards, the battle cards, that is. So we got this fat little fluffy demon. Like I said, we got the Janemba card right here, and he, like Gogeta, he's gonna be starting off the Janemba plays. So he's a 3-drop, but he's a 2-drop if you evolve onto the 1-drop, which is not that hard to do. And he's a barrier, so he's not going to be able to get removed. And on top of that, he has an activate main, which requires you to use 1 blue energy, and then you get the Janemba action going off. This guy gets Janemba rolling. So you choose up to 1 Janemba card from your deck and you send it to the warp, right? So you activate 1 energy, you look through your deck, you get 1 Janemba that you want, you send it to the warp, right? But then you get to choose up to 1 Janemba card with an energy cost of 4 in your warp, and you get to play it. Very useful effect. So you pretty much, for 1 energy, you get a Janemba card, you warp it, you play it, if it's a 4 cost. Awesome ability right here. He gets your Janemba action going, but you have to place this card in the bottom of your deck. But then you could just play the rocking out Janemba, you know, the one that's the Psyche, I can't say his name, the one that's rocking out, and you can just get this guy back and then do it again. So that's how you're going to be playing the Janemba action. This guy gets the Janemba action. So what Janemba cards are you going to want to be sending to the warp? Well, let's get started with one of the main ones, I think, that starts off the Janemba play. So we got Phantom Strike Janemba, man. This guy's throwing a beam. He's got Hulk mode. He's throwing beams out of his freaking mouth. Look at this guy, man. He looks sick. So what does this guy do? He has critical. And if you guys haven't noticed, the theme of Janemba is critical attacks, critical attacks, critical attacks, and then a bunch of cards going in the bottom of your deck, and you get them back to your hand. So what does he do? Let me read you his activate main ability. So what you want to do, in essence, is attack with this guy, and then you want to send this card to the warp by activating his main ability active after you attacked, and hopefully you attacked with a critical and the attack either went through or your opponent dropped cards from their hand. Then you activate his main and you send it to the warp, and if your opponent has 4 or more energies and Janemba card isn't in play in your battle area, you get to choose 1 Janemba card with an energy cost of 5 from your hand and play it. So that's pretty good, but he also has an auto that when this card is sent from the battle area to the warp with his own effect, obviously, you choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and send it to the warp. So you get to warp, and here's a removal. You get to remove 1 of your opponent's battle cards. Then you get to look at the bottom of your deck and add up to 1 Janemba card from the bottom of your deck to your hand. Like I said, you're going to be able to put cards, Janemba cards under your deck and then just get it back to your hand. And then what are you going to get? You're going to be able to play the 5-drop. So we got the super rare Janemba card, man. This guy looks crispy, and he looks crispier in person. So another critical attack going to your opponent, 25k, and this is all in the same turn once you activated the Childish Heart little fat fluffy ball Janemba's skill, right? That's a critical attack, and then when you play this card, you can't play him again. You can only play 1 of these once per turn. And then he has a Sparking 10 ability. If you happen to have 10 in the drop, you get to activate the main. So you attack with this guy, then you activate his main, and then place this card at the bottom of the owner's deck. If your leader is obviously the Janemba archetype, you choose up to 1 Janemba card from your warp with an energy cost of 4 and you play it. So this guy goes under your deck and then you get to play another 4 cost, whoever you want it to be. So what other 4 costs do you want to add? Well, let's show you some more guys that you could target and play from the warp. So next, you want to obviously get the Demon Sword Janemba. Man, this guy just took out his blade and he's ready to stab some people in the eye if he has to. You know, he's like Shazam. Especially Cold Bloodlust and Jace. He really wants to stab Jace. But he has a critical deflect, so you can't Cold Bloodlust it. Like, all counter plays are pretty much, like, Janemba nullifies all counter plays on its own because he has deflect and critical, and then activate main ability that places card at the bottom of the owner's deck, like I said. So you attack. After you attack, you want to activate Janemba's skill, activate main ability. Choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and you get to send it to the warp. So a lot of spot removal from Janemba on top of a lot of critical attacks with Janemba. And you get to place 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck in their drop area. So this card in essence is another attack, another critical attack. And he gets removed by going to the bottom of your deck after you attack. Why is this good? You're like, why would I want to remove him? Because there is one more final spice to the Janemba action. And this guy is, if anything, might be one of the strongest Janemba cards there is, in my opinion. For the fact that this is what he does. So after you put this guy in the bottom and you make your opponent drop 2 cards from the top of your deck, like I said, if you're running that leader, the Janemba leader, then every time he attacks you drop 2. Spamming this guy out with the Janemba cycle will be so darn effective to destroy your opponent's deck for deck destruction. It's also good for the regular Janemba critical action mayhem. Okay, so then after that, you have nothing in play anymore. After you after you send this all your Janemba cards to the bottom of your deck, you warp your Janemba cards in and out, and you're done for the turn. You still have 1 more Janemba card, and what is that? That is this awesome Janemba card. If anything, he might be the strongest Janemba card. So what does this Janemba card do? Let me tell you what this guy does. He's another critical attack. So this is swarming critical attacks. Critical, 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 deflect, and a permanent skill if your opponent has 4 or more energy. So this deck really takes off when it's mid to late game already. There are no battle cards in your opponent's. There are battle cards in your opponent's battle area, but there are no battle cards in your battle area. Sorry about that. You get to reduce the energy cost of this card by 3, thus making them a 1-drop if you fulfill the requirement, and it's another critical attack going through. In essence, you could get up to 3 to 4 attacks or even more if you play your cards right. And at the end of your turn, place this card at the bottom of your opponent's deck. Place this card at the bottom of your deck and place 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck in the drop area. Thus, criticals, deck destruction, multiple mayhem, obliteration to your opponent. And that is Janemba. So, that's the Janemba action. A lot of critical, a lot of deck destruction, a lot of in and out warping, and a lot of going back and forth from the bottom of your deck to your hand. And Janemba is, if not, might become one of the strongest leaders in the new series. So stay tuned for the deck profile. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you like these overviews of certain archetypes. And like we always say, y'all stay super.